Hey guys, I'm Sai. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, where you can find podcast interviews and content on a variety of subjects, including football, mental health, films, TV, conspiracy theories, wrestling, and music. Pretty much anything you can find. You can find today's guest on Fightful post pay-per-view shows, Fightful Select reviewing NXT UK, and his own YouTube channel. I'm very happy to welcome Mr. Warren Hayes to the show. Welcome, Mr. Hayes.
Well, hello, Jason. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure's all mine. So
No, it's all mine. Trust me, it's all mine.
So people might be a bit confused for those who didn't see me do Fightful shows with Sean Ross Sapp. So Warren's calling me Jason because one of the ladies from Fightful, Melissa, I sent her a tweet and she called me Jason, and we kind of just rolled on from there and made fun of her because it said Simon at the top of the tweet, so it was like, yeah. So that just so no one's confused, anyway.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. I figured I'd stretch that one out, give it breathe a little more life into it as we go along here because it was still very funny.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're listening, Melissa. Hi.
Yeah. I just tweet her every now and again. It just be every so often. Hi, Jason here. Or if I send something to Fightful Select, I always sign it off as Jason. You know, don't want to let her live it down ever. Yeah. So you've got a YouTube channel where you review WWE trick. How and when did that get started?
Well, I started doing the podcasting thing close to a year as to when we're recording right now. We're recording at the start of May. Last year, basically, I was just scouring wrestling Twitter and doing stuff. And I had actually started writing over on the Daily DDT on the Fan-Sided Network. I was writing articles over there, wrestling, of course. And at some point, I see in my Twitter timeline, I just see Sean Ross Sapp popping up. He pops up and he requests. He says, "Hey, would anyone be interested in joining me to do a retro pay-per-view review over on Fightful Select? DM me." So I see it pop up and I'm like, sure, kind of thing. And so I just respond to him right back and I said, sure, I'm good. I'm good to go. And he writes me back. He says, "Okay, cool. Do you have a decent mic?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I do. I have a decent mic." I didn't have a decent mic. So I just went out to a store, got a decent mic, and did that one with Sean. It was a lot of fun. Sean said, I'll invite you back. Well, this was fun. We had a good time. Why don't we do it again? So, and then the ball just got rolling, and I'm like, well, why don't I do this on my own time? Why don't I do this myself as well? And that's essentially how I started setting up a YouTube channel. I actually used to do when I started, as opposed to what I do now. When I started, I would record. I'd actually just record my thoughts and do minimal editing, and then upload the video. Whereas now I stream live. But yeah, that's essentially how I got started. If Sean had not given me the bug to get out there and create content, I'd probably be mowing my lawn right now.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I'm in a similar boat in that I always quite fancy doing a podcast on football or soccer to you guys, but
I'm okay with. I actually prefer calling it football because that's actually what it is. It is foot to ball, right? When it's like American football. You kidding me? It's more like run with ball. It's more. That's more catch. It's catchy run ball. That's what it is.
So yeah, so I was always on the lookout for something to do, and then I was thinking, I'm going to do it. And then I thought I wouldn't mind doing the wrestling thing. I was obviously watching Fightful and stuff with Sean, watching all their stuff, and I was like, I would like to do that, and then I never quite got around to doing it. It was always like, well, I'd like to do it, but this and that, and then obviously Fightful Select came around, and I ended up doing those couple of shows with him on that, and I was like, yeah, I could do this. I like this. It's something I'm interested in, and I spoke to a few people, including Sean, and just sort of said, you know, what do I want to do? And I said, well, everyone I spoke to said, whatever you do it on, whether it's football, wrestling, mental health, whatever it is, just talk about stuff that you know about. So if you know lots about football, you know lots about wrestling, then go for it. But don't try and go out too far outside of your knowledge base, which I've tried not to. He says that. I think at the moment I've done about like this is number 15, and there's like all sorts. There's like interviews with the actor, and there's wrestling ones, and there's conspiracy theory ones. So I say I listened, but I didn't really. I just did everything.
Well, I mean, you know, it's so easy these days to just like pick up a microphone and do something. So, like, there's no real reason to not just try something out, you know, because maybe that's what you're doing right now. You're like, you know, there's so much stuff I just want to talk about. I'm gonna try stuff out, and I'm gonna talk about it, and ultimately, it's like you'll see what sticks, not necessarily what sticks with the audience, but what sticks with you. Is eventually, you know, I started talking about Raw, about SmackDown, then moved on to NXT, you know, doing stuff for Fightful Select, and then you basically find your voice and you find what you're good at, and to me, it's whatever makes you really, really passionate, whatever you're able to speak about with heart, even if you're not like I don't consider myself to be an encyclopedia of wrestling knowledge. There are people out there who just baffle me, where they'll be like, where I'll talk about something and I'm like, hey, Trent Seven has a fantastic lariat, you know. Oh yeah, and then someone will go, yeah, but I saw Stan Hansen give a Magnum TA this lariat back in 1982, and I'm like, holy hell, you know. So that's the kind of stuff that that just goes above me. It's above my pay grade, but you know, I do love wrestling enough to be able to talk about it with passion. I watch enough to have opinions, and opinions doesn't necessarily mean you're right either. You know what I mean? So, you know, and it's just a question. There's also the question of being able to connect with people, being able to just be able to share your passion and what you talk about, what you love, and have a sort of retroaction back, which is why it's so much fun to do the live streams, because it boggles my mind that there are people who come after Raw, after SmackDown, who come to my live streams and hang out in the chat rooms and talk, and I can interact with them on Twitter then after. That just, to me, it's part of the reason why you do it. But when it happens, because you do it because you do want some kind of interaction, because you do want to have a discourse and exchange with people. But then when it does happen, to me anyway, it floors me. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, on one hand, this is what I wanted, but on the other hand, I don't understand why this is happening, you know? It's a weird combination of both.
Yeah, I think one of the things which you said then, or not one of them, but one of the things which sticks with me there is finding your voice, because obviously for me it was like almost like a build up of, I want to do this, and then I can't, and then I want to, and I've got like a few health problems as well. So that I always use that as an excuse. So then I sort of would be like, one week I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then the next week it would be like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then eventually I did one, and I did it. So the first show I did it with someone I'd met on Twitter about ADHD, because my eldest son's got ADHD. So I knew, I don't know a massive amount about it, but I knew, like I said, that I'm passionate about it. I knew I had opinions on it, and I wanted to talk to someone else of similar opinions, or not even similar opinions, but similar interests. And one of the biggest things I found, so jumping back and forth with it, before I did that interview, I put out a video about a week before, which was just me talking, saying, this is the channel, this is what it's going to be. one of the biggest things for me, I recorded that video. It was only like, probably, I think 3 or 4 minutes long. I recorded it about 20 times because I didn't like the sound of my voice. Really, I couldn't get used to it sounding different. So I kept recording it and kept recording it. And in the end, I just thought, no, I'm just going to do it. And I had like quite good feedback from people, generally just friends. So I thought, right, I'm going to do it. So I contacted this Jacob on Twitter and I did the show. And I didn't expect anything really from it. I expected like 10 views and that's it. Because the majority of the people who were subscribers at that point, or it's, you know, even now, are people who I've met or know, or friend of a friend of a friend, because I've only been going, I think 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. So once I got past the voice thing and the sound of my own voice, it was then a case of, right, this is what it is. I need to kind of get it to people outside of my sort of circle. And that was tricky, I got to say. Because,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because I haven't necessarily had a problem getting views on the video, like not like thousands, but like the majority of my videos now have all got between about 50 and 200 views, 250 views, sorry. But I find it difficult to get those views to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, which is really weird to me, because when I go into YouTube, if I watch a video and as you do, you go down the rabbit hole of YouTube sometimes. If I start watching something and I enjoy it, I tend to subscribe. But I think that's just because I've got into the habit of doing it. So trying to find that balance has been a bit weird. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge for everyone, and it's, you know, especially when it comes to wrestling podcasters, you know, just like I said, since, you know, technically all you need is a microphone. It doesn't even have to be a quality microphone. You can podcast with just about anything. And I'm a firm believer that the more voices that are out there, the better. I think it's important to have a diversity of people talking about one same subject, because there's a diversity of people out there who may not respond in the same fashion, or won't be compelled by a certain type of content because they're looking for something else. So in that end, since there's a lot of people, like, I don't know how it is with other topics, with other cultural topics, but man, there are wrestling podcasts everywhere. I think there's got to be like 50 a day that launch. You know, it's nuts. So on one hand, you know, I'm like, I do believe that more voices equals better, and it's good for everyone. And I also think that we're all, we wrestling podcasters, content creators, we're all in a level of co-opetition, you know, where we all sort of have to work to promote each other, because if we elevate each other, everyone benefits. We're all struggling to get the same level of mind share, which is already it's a sliver, right? It's so small already. We're all struggling to just get a bit of mind share. So everyone sort of props each other up. Now, where I'm saying this because I'm coming to meet you on your point, when you're saying, you know, well, I'd like to be able to reach out of people I know, friends, family, blah, 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 blah. What's really difficult for wrestling podcasters is to get people who don't already have a podcast to listen to what they're doing. So it's the same thing. It's like, I'll listen to Smart to Death. I'll listen to the Fightful stuff. I'll listen to Speeds in the Benchmark. I'll listen to No Particular Angle. Those are just off the top of my head like that. Omega Luke. I'll listen to all those great folks. But I'm a content creator. So on one end, you know, it's cool that I'm listening. And it's good for them because, you know, they are getting they're getting listens, they're getting downloads. I can chat with them about their content and whatever. But I know that as content creators, we do want just listeners. We just want people who will subscribe, who will listen to your content, and they don't have anything else than just enjoying your content. They're not in there for any other reason, just then, you know what, I like this guy, I like this girl, I'm going to go for it, you know? So that's the, so you know, it makes sense to me what you're saying there, that you'd like to be able to branch out of it. But honestly, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for everyone.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think, like you said, it's so easy to do, and like at the moment, I'm using my phone as a webcam because it's better than the webcam on my laptop and some headphones.
God, yes. I'm sure it
Because,
is. Webcam, laptop webcams are terrible.
well, do you know what? The first one I did on Google Hangouts, and I sort of logged into the laptop, and I was like, oh yeah, looks good. And then the second Jacob came in, the guest came into the chat, he just went woof, and it was like watching an 80s TV, and I was just like, oh, I can't be doing that for much longer. So yeah, I switched it over a bit, and as it were, like obviously Skype have only recently brought in this thing which makes it really easy to record on Skype.
Yeah, yeah.
So particularly for ones where it's not live, it's just easy. Go on Skype, press record, and away to go. I think, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So it's really easy to do in terms of getting started, but because it's easy, there's so many people. Everyone's got a YouTube channel. It's amazing. If you go on Twitter, everyone's got a YouTube channel, which is great. I think it's great that it's easy and it's accessible, but it just means that there's only so many people watching YouTube at the same time, and the people like your I don't know, you like your Logan Pauls or whoever who've got 3 million, 4 million people, they get shunted to the top of all the search. So even if me or you had, or if you say, because you've got like more subscribers than me, so say if you had a video titled the same thing as Logan Paul, exactly the same, word for word, with the same tags, the same everything, if Joe Blogs goes and types it into the search bar, his goes up there and yours will be somewhere in the middle, which is the only way to get past that sort of algorithm is to get up there in subscribers, which I think makes it very difficult, doesn't it?
Well, from my understanding, the subscriber count does help, but YouTube also counts engagement a lot. I'm able to pull up my stats, and I'm able to make a correlation on the number of views I get with the number of thumbs up / comments I get on a video. So the videos that get higher thumbs up, especially while I'm live streaming, will be recommended more, because the YouTube stats are really, really good for identifying where your traffic is coming from, what the source is. So it's if your engagement, if your watchers, your community thumbs up videos, they leave comments, you will be more easily recommended, because YouTube's algorithm will be like, hey, you know what? Apparently this guy, apparently a lot of people like this. For a oh man, I forget the stat, but I think like for a video to be considered by the algorithm to be considered like very, very well liked, engaged, a high level of engagement, you have to have like 4 likes for 100 views, if my memory serves me right. So sometimes it doesn't depend on the number of, because they're all ratios ultimately. So it's not necessarily the number of subscribers. The number of subscribers will help because it will automatically boost up your engagement, because if you have subscribers, they're more inclined to like your videos. So if you have 1,000 subscribers versus 100, where you're likely to have more people thumbing up than the guy who has 100. But if you do have a video where you have 100 views on it, but 22 likes, that means there's 22% of people who've watched your video who liked it enough to give it a thumbs up, and YouTube will consider that and will be more inclined to add it in recommended videos, or up next, whatever.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And it even goes beyond views as well. Views is one thing, but duration is another thing as well. You can have one view, a view is the minute the video starts, right? So you can have a view, someone stays 5 seconds and you still get a view, but you only got 5 seconds of view time.
Yeah. The watch time, isn't it?
Exactly. The watch time, exactly. So if your videos are being watched like at 45% of their length, YouTube considers that really, really good, you know? So
Uh,
there's all these things that mesh together. Subscribers are one thing, but and this absolutely goes hand in hand with marketers with their ad campaigns, because at some point, the advertisers were like, well, yeah, I mean, this guy has views, but I mean, no one interacts with his videos. It's like, who is this guy? Kind of thing. Sure, he's got 100,000 subscribers, but he's got like 2 views on each video. I want it to be seen. I want my video ad to be part of to be viewed on a channel that has a lot of engagement. So that's why these things shifted to more like ratios instead of hard numbers, and it makes sense in a way as well.
Yeah, and I think going back quickly to the subscriber thing is, if you've got 4 million, or some of the stupid ones like 20 million subscribers, which baffles me. If you've got that many people subscribed to your video, and say 50% of them have got the bell clicked, so every time you upload a video, instantly they're in the comments, their thumbs and up, you're always going to be at that upper echelon of the search and the recommended videos.
Exactly, because I'm not saying that subscriber number isn't important, because it is, but it's important because it influences the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't look at subscriber count automatically to say, well, this guy has 20 million subscribers, so let's push him up first. You could flip it around and say this guy has 20 million subscribers, but 17 million of them are hate watchers, who just downvote everything he does. Well, his video is not going to end up in recommended if it's being thumbs down all the time.
It's interesting. So did you find when you were doing, so you used to do recorded videos and then you switched to the live streams after Raw or SmackDown or whatever, did you find that the amount of comments you'd get on a recorded video were the same or similar amounts to live? Or do you think that as soon as it's live, it just went up to another level?
Yep. Live changed everything.
That interests me, you see, because when I first started, in my mind, I was going to go live more often than not. And then somewhere in between that, I've changed to recording. Some of it's due to time constraints,
sure,
or some of the with a couple of them, like the mental health ones, which I did. I spoke to a guy about his the grief and depression and then some addiction he'd been through, which is obviously an emotional subject. So what I didn't want to do was do it live and then him say something that he didn't want to say or he didn't want out there.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
For his benefit as much as mine, because it was a very, it was emotional. It's a emotive subject. It was about death and grief, and he had a particularly heartbreaking story. But I don't know when I made that change from initially thinking I'm going to do most shows live, because obviously, like I said, a lot of the influence for me going into it came from the likes of you and Sean and a bit of Wrestling Inc. Whisper.
They're okay.
But then, so those types of shows.
The Wrestling Inc. Guys and girls are fine. They're great people. Roger's a great guy.
Yeah, I'm only playing. He is a cool dude, actually. I've spoken to him a couple of times on Twitter. He's a good guy. But yeah,
and Kelsey's there too. Kelsey as well. Yeah. She does stuff over at Wrestling Inc. She's fantastic. Yeah, they're good people. Just because I'm hanging around Fightful doesn't mean I don't. I'm not at war with everyone else.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No. So I don't know when I made the change from I'm going to do the majority live to everything being recorded. I think I probably will switch back, because you and a couple of other people I've spoken to have said, if you go live, you'll get your people who are subscribed, but also you get people who just scour YouTube for live, particularly if you're talking about a particular subject. if they're searching for it and it comes up as live. So my problem in terms of what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to sort of, when I talk about wrestling, for instance, I didn't want to do review Monday, review Tuesday, review Wednesday, because that's kind of like what you do and what Fightful do, and a lot more bigger accounts do. So I wanted to do something different.
Right.
So the guy who I was supposed to be doing it with was all set, and what we were gonna do is we were gonna do like one on a Thursday sometime and just review the TV and the news of the week type thing. So it would be like an hour and 15 minutes and just talk about everything in one, just so it's something slightly different. However, the week before we were going to start, I had it all ready, I had all the news, and he just said, no, I can't do it. I can't commit to it. And so he let me down. So I'm now in this position where I did a WrestleMania preview on my own, which is all right, but I think it's difficult. I don't know what you think about this. I found it difficult when it was just me in a recorded video. I think it's different if you're in a live chat, but when it's just you, just talking to a camera, I found that I wouldn't lose my train of thought necessarily because I had what I needed to, cover and everything. But I just found you almost get fed up with the sound of your own voice. But I suppose if you're doing like a live one, it's a bit easier because you've got people to interact with as you're going along.
Yeah, that's really the biggest that's the biggest thing. The biggest difference is just knowing that there's people there and listening and joining. That it's definitely a motivational factor, because you carrying a show by yourself, and I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but it's hard. It's not easy, especially since you want to, especially if you want to do like something like an hour. You sort of have to think highly of yourself to a certain degree. You know what I mean? To be able to say to yourself, I can sustain an audience for an hour all by myself. There's something very, very cocky, about doing that. But like anything, you give it a try, and that's why it's one of the reasons why. Well, actually, the main reason why I decided to go live is because I did a preview show last fall. I had Chris Spizak of the Spies and Benchmark show come on, and we recorded the show, and then the file got corrupted and I couldn't use it. So I was like, well, screw this. I'm going live from now on. That way, I won't lose any files in the process, and it's been smooth sailing since. But but I mean, this always depends on the format and it depends on the people. Good example. I work a lot with Kristen Ashley on the Division podcast for Fightful. Kristen likes the panel. Format. She prefers to do that. She prefers to have direct interaction with people, so she likes to have two people there, and she prefers to do the recorded bits as well, because if ever something goes off rails, if there's ever something that we could tweak afterwards or just edit out or maybe save as extras, she prefers that vision of it as well. She doesn't necessarily see in her vision of her show. She doesn't necessarily see the need or the value of doing it live when you have three people discussing about topics in a sort of a roundtable format. So I mean, there's no and by the way, listen to the Division on Fightful podcasts, of course.
I already do.
There you go. Thank you. But that's it. I mean, so it's all a question of what you want to do, and you have to do stuff that plays off of your strengths. I've had experience in the past public speaking, talking in front of people. I've done some theater work. I've done in improv as well. So there's things, to me, talking in front of people all by myself isn't necessarily, it's not a challenge for me.
Yeah.
Being interesting is a challenge, but talking in front of people, that's not a problem in and about itself. And again, that's something Kristen can attest to, that me being interesting is a challenge.
No, so I mean, Yeah, I think it's like if you've got three people, or if you've got like three people, you're less likely to pay attention to the live chat because you've got three people
Well,
talking.
then again, it depends. It depends. If we look at if you look at Spies and Benchmark or the Smart to Death guys, there's two of them. So all the opposite, especially in Chris and Silky's case, they take the time to look at the chat. You do have a breather. Like when I do it, I actually I have to turn and I'm like, oh, let's see what the chat is talking about. And then I sort of read some stuff off because I'm not reading as I'm talking. I'm talking to the camera. So then I have to sort of look off to the side and look at the camera. And then I try to not create as much, too much downtime, but sometimes it's inevitable. Whereas Chris on Speeds and Benchmark, Chris will be reading the chat while Silky's giving some commentary. And then Chris will just smoothly transition and then be like, oh, so and so in the chat said this and that and so on and so forth. Same thing with Kyle and Anthony over on Smart to Death. So, I mean, it depends. I mean, you can still get that interaction, and in some ways, it's a little easier because there's a way to share the responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I'm going to do an end of season football review after next weekend when the Premier League finishes. So I might test the waters and do me and a couple of other people, and might just do it live. And it goes off the rails. It goes off the rails.
Sure. And I mean, that's the beauty and danger of live stuff. And one of the things now that you mentioned it, that's important. When I was talking about co-opetition earlier, I think that the idea of collaborating with others is crucial to helping you reach out to new audiences and find new people. If I hadn't done Fightful first and foremost, I don't think that there'd be that much of a Mr. Warren Hayes thing going on. Same things goes, Speeds in the Benchmark. They've invited me on the show. Anthony as well. We do a lot of stuff together. There's a lot of possibilities to collaborate. John from No Particular Angle, and Kristen as well with the division and so on. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's really working with others. First of all, it creates relationships. It's literally the equivalent of networking at your local business business bureau, where you're like you go into to happy hour, it's like networking opportunities, and everyone's standing around with their cards, with their business cards, and said, hey, I work and we create screws. Really we make nuts. Really? Well, maybe at some point we should put our screws and nuts together. I hope no one ever takes that out of context, because I am completely boned. And there you go. I have another reason.
Now you finish it off.
There you go. I'll just end it there. But that's the idea, collaborating, working with others. It's the idea of co-opetition. If we're all struggling to get the same attention from a very limited amount of viewers, but we do it in a way to sort of promote each other. And I really, really do believe that the more we can prop each other up, the better it is for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. And at the end of the day, the way I look at it, so I had a guy called Ben came on last week to do a football podcast, and he's got his own football podcast, which is quite successful for Cardiff City, which is our local club. So I asked him to come on, similar to you, just come on for a little chat, and then we'll talk some football or whatever. And straight away, after I put his show out, I had an influx of, not loads, but like a few followers who from, Cardiff City fans who'd seen it because they recognized him. They came straight on.
Right.
So it's,
I mean, that's it. That's the thing. Let's be honest with each other. One of the reasons why you collaborate with other people is because they have an audience. You're hoping that they have an audience that don't already know about you, and that you can mooch off of some of the attention, right? I mean, if we're being completely transparent, that's one of the reasons. It's not the main impetus. Like if I want to I like working with people that I have affinities with, that I get along with, I have chemistry with. I wouldn't just like reach out to just about anyone. Just be like, hey, that guy has 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm gonna try and work with them, especially if he's or she is. I don't know if I can swear on your show or not.
Yeah, go.
If
I'm surprised I haven't.
if he or she is an asshole, I'm not going to work with them if I don't get along with them, if I don't feel an affinity. I just won't. But I mean, there is always that in the back where you want to be, you want to get yourself out there, you want your name to spread around. Well, the best way to break out of your silo is to go into other silos or be invited into other silos. Then you can all swim around in the grain and stuff, and then you cross your hands that you don't choke to death under the dust. Like
you come out with an extra finger.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's a weird one because like I've obviously, because I'm new, I've been looking. I started off, or still starting off with people who I know either in real life or through Twitter, or like yourself, or like just people from whoever, like Sean. People who I've got some sort of relationship with, whether it's over the internet or in personal, and I get them to come on. And then a couple of them have sort of said, "Oh, I know someone who might come on and talk about this or talk about that." And like, obviously, that's the way to go, and that's how you build those relationships. So I messaged some people. Some I like shot a bit too high, and I went for I messaged Tyson Fury's manager. He's not going to come on my show, but I thought, what's the worst he can say?
The worst he can say is no.
Yeah.
That's literally the worst thing that can happen.
I thought, well, I didn't think he would respond. And I wanted to get him on, actually, to talk about mental health. Obviously, I got a series going now of mental health podcasts on different subjects. And I thought he'd be a really interesting guy to speak to. And he's quite open about, mental health issues and stuff. And I didn't expect a response, but his manager responded to me and he said, "Thank you very much. I obviously, as you can understand, he gets loads of requests, but I will show him a message and get back to you." And I thought, Tyson Fury, like former world heavyweight champion, his manager took the time to speak to me. So at that point,
he's got a very good manager. I can tell you that much.
Yeah,
he's got a very good manager.
Yeah. He so like I messaged at that point. I had messaged like him, and I'd messaged a few other people who were probably they're outside of where I should be looking. Perhaps they're a bit more like Joe Rogan guests. But I messaged someone on YouTube who I watched their shows. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to jinx it. But I messaged this person on YouTube. I watch all their videos, and I messaged him and I said, "Look, I've started this new podcast, this, and this. Would you be interested in coming on for like a little interview chat?" And then I added on the end, also, I wouldn't mind doing a podcast on the subject which he does his videos on. If you'd be interested in doing that once a week, once a month. Didn't expect him to respond because he's got, 50,000 subscribers or something, way out of my region. And he messaged me back and he said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And
That's fantastic.
Great. So I don't want to jinx that. But yeah, but the point I was making is that the worst someone can say to you is no, unless they're a real nasty piece of work.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I've tried to look at it from that point of view, and just I'll always tag in whoever I message. I'll say, "This is the show's Twitter. These are the shows we've got out there," so they can have a look if they want. Very few people have ignored me. Most people will say, I got to be honest, the majority have said, "Yeah, love to. I might not be able to do it next week, but I will do it."
Mm-hmm.
I'm really pleasantly surprised by that. But like you say, it's building relationships far and wide, because at the end of the day, like, we all want people to come and watch whatever we're doing.
There you go. Yep.
So how did the Fightful thing come about like going from just the so you did the retro things, didn't you? And then you went on to the Fightful Select. Was that just a gradual thing, which just came from?
It's funny because this is how it happened. I was I had started doing the retro reviews with Sean. We did a couple, and I started my YouTube channel on the side, and Sean and I got along. And I'm like, okay, this is fun, and I have no idea where Sean wanted to go with this. I had no expectations, and at some point, I'm watching one of the Fightful's post Raw or SmackDown reviews. I don't know which one. And Sean is there, and he's doing his usual plugs at first, and he's like, yeah, so Fightful Select, and so on and so forth, and come join us. We've got this and that, and Mr. Warren Hayes there, who does the retro reviews for me, and I'm trying to find a way to get Warren Hayes to do more content for us. We're gonna find, and I'm like, oh, this is the first I hear about it. I learned about it just at the same time as everybody else. Well, like, fine. So I picked up my DMs and like, hey, Sean, okay, what do you have in mind, kind of thing. So that's basically, and then we brainstormed on what we could do. Select had place for an extra hour for me on the bill. And that, at first we were like, oh, maybe we should do NXT. Oh, but does NXT have too much? NXT is just about an hour. Can you do an hour with just an hour of NXT? And like, well, why don't we combine 205 Live and NXT? Oh, that's a great idea. And then we started combining. Then we started combining with the Mae Young Classic. Now it's pretty much 205 Live, NXT, and NXT UK. And by God, if I'm not. I know Alex Pulowski is very jealous that I get to review those shows where he gets stuck with Raw every week. So how you doing, Alex?
You definitely got the better end of that deal, I think, in terms of viewing.
You got that right. As far as quality, much more consistent on the upside for sure.
And the thing is, there's not that many, like you say, there's loads of wrestling podcasts everywhere. And there's loads of Raw and SmackDown podcasts everywhere. But if you look around, there is some, but there's not many, or not as many, who review NXT, and certainly not who review NXT UK, where it's like a show focused just on that. And I think certainly it appeals to me because I like to watch the show, and then I go and listen to you review it. Or if I watch Raw, I watch it Monday morning, because it's on in 3 o'clock in the morning, and I watch it, and then I go and watch Sean and Alex moan about it, how bad it is. But it's so. What do you think of NXT UK at the moment?
Oh, good. Good,
isn't it?
I'm stunned with the amount of talent that they have there. It's ridiculous, ridiculous. They have, it was the last, from 2017 into 2018, it was absolutely brilliant of WWE to have positioned Pete Dunne and the Mustache Mountain Boys as the pillars of the brand, having them compete on main roster or in NXT, had them put on extraordinary matches so that when the brand would launch, the American fans, North American fans, worldwide fans would know who these three dudes are and how fantastic they are, because they are three extraordinary wrestlers, especially Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, who are crazy. And I mean, Trent Seven, what is he? He's like in his 30s? 30, what is he? He's like 33, 34, something like that. I mean, he can still go. He's amazing. So all three of them together, I found it was a very long, I don't know how planned it was, but it was really brilliant if it was like extended, like if it was a multi-year thing that they had decided to create a slow build for the brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just based on those guys, it's fantastic. And then, I don't necessarily, I'd be lying if I told you that I'd listened to or religiously watched British independent wrestling before really getting into NXT UK. That'd be a bald-faced lie. But I did hear of many names who are there now. Zach Gibson, who's fantastic. He's Dave Mastiff, and then Jordan Devlin. Jordan Devlin. I get goosebumps every time I say his name. Jordan Devlin is one of my favorite contemporary wrestlers right now. Guy, he can do no wrong. But the guys is one thing, all right? And I mean, there's hits and misses. Like there's Joseph Connors that I don't understand what the appeal is of Joseph Connors. I don't know why they're trying to push him. I don't get it.
Eddie Dennis as well is similar, but Eddie Dennis is a bit like that as well. I just don't quite get.
But Eddie Dennis has charisma. He can connect. He can be a heel. Joseph Connors has there's a stoneness about him. There's something that doesn't translate, and he's kind of dull in the ring. But anyway, I don't want to get into this right now. But to me, the main attraction of NXT UK is the women's division. I cannot believe how stacked that division is. And sure, we've got Toni Storm, and the world was introduced to Rhea Ripley over the course of the Mae Young Classic and then NXT UK. And Rhea is she's a superstar. Like she is a legend in the waiting right now. But then on top of that, you have Nina Samuels who's there. You have Ginny. You have Zia Brookside, who's she's coming up, but she's just full of talent. You have Charlie Morgan, who's injured right now and hasn't been properly used on NXT UK, but that woman is fantastic. And then they recently added Piper Niven in there. Kaylee Ray, and I'm forgetting someone critical, but I mean, the women's division is so incredibly. Ginny, did I say Ginny? Did I mention Ginny?
Ginny.
Okay.
I said Ginny.
Okay.
Say.
I mean, that is a breadth of talent that not even main roster can match right now.
No.
Honest to God, there is right now. The women's division in NXT UK is the best assembly of talent, of women talent in the world right now. And I strongly believe that. They have too many outstanding, not just good, not just great, outstanding women there. They really do.
Yeah, they've got so many that I wonder whether they will ship a couple over to NXT America, if you want to call it that.
Well, which is fine because honestly, right now, NXT is kind of devoid of like really top tier female talent. You have Shayna Baszler, that's fine. You have Candice LeRae that they're finally starting to push, and when she starts to shine, everyone's going to be like, "Oh my God!" Because she is tougher than you. She's tougher than me. She's tougher than you. She's tougher than everyone. Io Shirai is in the same boat. It's like let her uncork.
Yeah, they feel like they haven't quite let go of those two. They've shown you a little bit,
and that's fine. And I'm okay because that's really it's NXT type of thinking. You know, you're going to get some good matches, you're going to get some exciting stuff, but then when you get to the takeovers, then you have the mind blowing stuff because that's what takeovers are for, and that's where you just let them go, and that's fantastic. But look, and as far as NXT UK, to me, the real draw, outside of watching Pete Dunne, outside of having Ilya Dragunov coming in, outside from all of that great stuff, outside from Marcel Bartel and Fabian Aichner meshing as a fantastic tag team, aside from all that stuff, the draw is the women. Unquestionably the women.
I feel like when they came up to Blackpool, as they came into that takeover Blackpool, I felt like the top couple of matches were really good, and they're going to be good. They're quite hyped. But then I felt
the tag team match was fantastic.
Yeah, that was awesome. but I feel like the rest of the card was didn't quite have the hype. But then since then, I feel like it's gone right up, and I feel like they've started to really get a bit of momentum going. I was amazed when Piper Niven turned up, because everything I'd read everywhere said that she was going to AEW. So when she turned up, I was really, really happy. And then obviously Walter's aligned, haven't he, with the dudes from his. Were they in a stable in Europe?
He and Marcel Bartel, when he was what's his name, Axel. I forget what his WXW name was, but he and Marcel Bartel were Mein Kampf. Not Mein Kampf. No, that's wrong.
That's not it.
That's something else. No, but Ring Kampf. Sorry, Ring Kampf.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of shades of that they're doing, because Fabian Aichner wasn't around. But it's the same idea. And I think it's interesting. I mean, this is a spoiler, by the way, because it hasn't aired yet.
Was it?
Yeah, it hasn't aired yet. But
sorry, folks.
Spoiler alert. But it's interesting because they had hinted at that a couple of weeks ago. Well, a few months ago now, when Walter first debuted, he ran into Bartel and Aichner, and Bartel was like, right. If you ever need someone to watch your back, and I'm like, ooh la 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 la, this is getting good. No, honestly, like Blackpool, I mean, the first takeover wasn't fantastic either, right? It was good. That was fine. There was some good moments. There were not so good. Everyone's finding their footing, and these are all people who suddenly you're like, look, this is how you work the WWE style now. This is how you're going to work for us, and they're used to working another way. So there's a lot of adaptation going on as well. I think that WWE sees a great load of potential in Joe Coffey as a heel. I think Joe Coffey is fantastic. He conducts himself like a superstar. He's an incredible promo. But right now he feels like a late 1990s Triple H to me. Where his potential, he hasn't peaked yet. His potential is still there. He just hasn't reached that next level there, because I thought his match with Pete Dunne was good. It was a good match, but it was a little all over the place. And I think it might have been, I'm of the opinion that Pete Dunne can get a good match out of anyone. Like, he's just that kind of special talent. So, I think that there's part of that. I also think that I felt like Tony Storm and Rhea Ripley were holding a little back. It wasn't that quite as explosive as I was expecting. But Dave Mastiff, and like I'm starting to understand the appeal of Dave Mastiff, but there are so many people on that card, on that roster right now, who deserve attention, especially the women. When I see NXT UK pressing, doing their best to try and get Joseph Connors over, I'm like, cut it out. Just stop and give Nina Samuels the time to blow our fucking minds out, because that's what she does for a living.
The thing is, they could, instead of giving us Joseph Connors, give us an undercard women's feud that's not about the title. You've named all those people. Mm-hmm. I'd rather see all of them in a feud with each other, whichever pairing you want to pair them off as, than Joseph Connors. So, and I feel like WWE as a whole, that's the kind of one thing that they'll have the women's title match or the tag team title matches, but then they won't give you another feud.
Yeah, but it's really weird. And it's really weird how they do that with the women. It's like they're going to focus on a couple of women, but they won't build any other stars. And this is one of the problems that I'm convinced that they ran into when WrestleMania time came along, and they were like, well, we have our top three women in one same feud, and Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda. Who else is a credible opponent for Asuka then? You know, they didn't have a credible, well-built star outside of those three that they could put up against Asuka, and that's not on the talent's fault. It's not the talent's fault. It's not because Naomi or Sonya Deville or Ember Moon was injured, but it's not because or Nikki Cross. It's not because they don't want to. It's not because they're not capable. It's because the booking is shit. If we're being frank, because they're not building an undercard of women that they can then elevate credibly up to this next level. Why did it take so long? I mean, like Lacey Evans right now, yes, she hasn't properly wrestled a match outside of the Royal Rumble. She hasn't wrestled a match on main since being called up. And there you go, she's fighting Becky Lynch. But why do we feel like it's a credible match? Because they built her properly. And then Lacey afterwards, whether she wins against Becky or loses, well, she's going to be considered a contender. She's going to be considered an upper tier lady that will be able to elevate others. I mean, they weren't even able to put Sasha Banks and Bayley in a position of credibility outside of giving them tag team titles because they had screwed around with them so long. They cooled them off way too much.
Yeah, and they've done it to so many people. Have you got time for one last question?
Sure.
Okay. Bray Wyatt, new gimmick. It's interesting. Will it work though?
I'm going to be. This is right up my alley. Like as far as wrestling goes, trying stuff out. Look, this is the thing, right? We all sit around as fans, as pundits. We all sit around and we're like, well, let's try something new. Give us something new, WWE. And they try something new, and everyone's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, everyone's all over it.
Yeah. Try something new, but not this. Well, it's like, dude. But the thing here, look, Bray Wyatt he's an A-level performer. And we have proof here. Look at how he's always been able to convincingly embody his character. And even if he was giving the shittiest promos, the worst lines, especially in his last run before he got injured. Those were terrible promos. He still managed to breathe life into them. Now look at him here. He's got the sweater vests on. He's got the beret when he's painting. His face is lit up. His eyes are round and gleaming. Tell me, not Jason, tell me that you're not excited to see the next Firefly Funhouse this Monday. Because you are. You are looking forward to seeing it.
I am, yeah. I was the guy who shit all over it. The first time I watched it, I tweeted Sean Ross Sapp and I said, "What the fuck is this?"
And everyone did. Like I have, and they will go nameless because there's a lot of people that I love here, and I will not bury them unnecessarily on other people's show. I will bury them face to face. But there are people in DMs and came together and were like, what is this shit? And whereas I was like, this is amazing. And this is what I think. I think that Bray Wyatt, the character, is trying to change. He wants to be a better person. He doesn't want to be a sociopath anymore. But it's driving him insane. He's going mad. The puppets, the environment, it's all this cushy mind, mind castle that he's created for himself to try and protect himself from his true feelings. But they're eking out. Just in the first episode that they gave us, you know, when he had the moment where he lifted up his hands and they had the gloves hurt heel and the picture sort of got twitchy and distorted. I was like, oh, okay. So there's still darkness there. Last episode, he was painting. Inevitably, he was painting the Wyatt compound that was burning with Sister Abigail inside, right? Because that's the lore of the Wyatt family, Sister Abigail, died in a fire in the Wyatt compound. So he hasn't come to terms with his darkness. His darkness is trying to eke out. That's why the puppets all look so horrifying at the same time. The rabbit, what was his name? Rowdy Rabbit? I don't remember.
Rambling Rabbit.
Rambling Rabbit. That is the most terrifying puppet he has right now. And it's amazing. So, look, I'm a Bray Wyatt guy. I've always loved it, from his Waylon Mercy lookalike to now. I have always been a fan. He hasn't been properly utilized because creative doesn't understand how to get him across. Now you kind of feel like they do. And if he comes back out of this and becomes like the true agent of chaos that he is, we're in for a treat. He needs to have another run with the world title. It has to be more than or any title, WWE title or Universal, more than just a placeholder to give it to hand it over to Randy Orton to then lose it to Jinder Mahal. Fuck. And hopefully he's got his hands entrenched in the gimmick enough here. He's pumping enough of himself into it that creative and he can find that path that will lead us to Bray Wyatt in the ring. And a lot of people are like, well, how is it going to translate in the ring? You know, is he going to bring the puppets to the ring? First of all, I hope to hell he doesn't, because otherwise it's going to turn into another situation with Legion of Doom and Rocco. I don't know if you remember that from the late 90s. That was a disaster. That effectively killed Legion of Doom back then. But I think these vignettes are just a setup to reintroduce us to a Bray Wyatt character who will still come out to the same bluesy, Bayou type music, with everyone pulling out their cell phones and doing the fireflies, and everyone will actually be excited to do it, you know, as opposed to just doing it because that's what you're supposed to do. I think it's a reintroduction. I don't think we're going to have Bray Wyatt in the ring in a bright red shirt being all happy and giddy, unless it's a slow progression to him becoming like I said, the agent of chaos that he should be. I'm looking forward to it. I dig it. I dig this angle.
It's the only reason I want to watch. What I'm hoping they do is I am hoping that those puppets all represent characters who are going to be like his new stable. And I was hoping it was going to be Nikki Cross, Killian Dane, and Eric Young.
Well,
as
you
his
see,
new little...
maybe. See, the way I see it as I see them as extensions of Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
there's the Vulture. Well, first of all, he follow the buzzards. It's part of his. That was one of his taglines. Is named Mercy. Clearly, Waylon Mercy. So that's one part of his character. Then you had Abby, who is the witch, Sister Abigail. That's another incarnation of Bray Wyatt. Ramblin' Rabbit. I think that this is a direct relation to the last 12 months of his career before he was injured, where that's all he did. He just talked. Yeah. He just talked nonsense. It was rambling. So I think it's the three faces of Bray ultimately, and we're creating a fourth. We're creating something new here. So we're acknowledging that this is where Bray Wyatt has come from, but we're creating something new out of it. I really feel, for the first time in a long time, I really feel that WWE are putting some thought into this, and that there's some real symbolism to it, other than just, hey, let's put a goofy looking rabbit puppet. No, the puppet represents his long-winded rambling promo aspect that no one liked, and that we were like, man, I wish he had something to do. Yeah.
As long as he wins feuds and his master plans work, it'll work. The character will work because he's talented enough to do it. I could do a whole podcast just on Bray Wyatt, so it's just finding someone to talk to about it. There's a lot of people got sick of him. I did not, see.
I never got sick of him either. I got disappointed, but never sick.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Be sure to subscribe to Fightful Select to catch Warren's NXT and NXT UK weekly reviews. Check out his Raw and SmackDown reviews on his YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel, which is Mr. Warren Hayes.
YouTube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. Exactly.
Excellent. Where can the people find you on Twitter?
It's really easy. Mr. Warren Hayes. That's MR, the abbreviation. Don't write out Mr. You'll just be wasting time. MR Warren Hayes. And thank you for having me on, not Jason. This was it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you inviting me. It was a good time. Thank you very, very much.
No problem at all, mate. And you can come on anytime you want. So thanks again, mate. I really appreciate it. I do really, really appreciate it as well. You finding the time. Thank you to the people who've watching. You can keep up to date on upcoming shows and content on @ACEcast_nation on Twitter. Follow and like us on Facebook. Subscribe to YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications. Cheers, guys. And thank you, Warren.